Okay, so I've identified this hive as a hive that's not very strong. They've pretty much just got one box with bees and brood in it, and I've added this empty box on top because I don't like single-story hives out in the sun for long periods of time in the hot Texas summers. I like getting that second box up on top just to give them a little bit of a heat barrier from that, those 100-degree days. So, but this hive is on the weaker side. It doesn't have a whole lot of brood. It's got a laying queen. We're feeding them. We're giving them pollen patties, and we've taken care of the varroa mites, so the essentials are taken care of. But they're just not as strong. They were a later split, later in the year, and they just aren't as strong as some of these other hives. You can see this other hive over here. I mean, we've got bees fanning all over the place, and it's packed full of bees. So all I'm going to do with this hive, now that I've made sure varroa mites are under control, I'm feeding them, the basics are covered, I'm just going to take a frame of brood from my stronger hive and give it to my weaker hive. And I'm just going to illustrate quickly how to do that. It doesn't take long. I'm just going to open up my weak hive, and I'm going to pull one of the frames from the outside edge. This frame happens to be mostly foundation. So it's, they've started drawing out the comb on this side. This side is still foundation. So I'm going to pull a frame from the outside edge, and I'm going to open up a space in the middle of the hive. So you can see I've opened up a space right in the middle of the hive, right between the current frames of brood. I'm going to go to my really strong hive. I'm just going to open them right up. And I'm going to pull a frame of brood, ideally mostly capped brood, because I want my weaker hive not to have to do much work taking care of this brood. So this is a beautiful frame of eggs and larvae. I'm going to set it aside because I want them, again, to have a frame of capped brood. Okay, so here's a frame of mostly capped brood. I'm going to see if I can find one that's almost completely capped brood, just for the fun of it. So it looks like I don't see one. I've got lots of honey up here and lots of frames of eggs and larvae. So I could go down into the second box, but you know what? It's hot and I'm tired and I don't want to go down the second box. So that's the choice you get to make as a beekeeper sometimes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look carefully for the queen. I don't see the queen on this frame. If you're not confident in your ability to find the queen, just go ahead and shake all the bees off into this hive. If you're pretty confident that you can spot the queen and you don't see her on here, you can leave the bees on. And you can see this is a frame mostly of capped brood. It's got some uncapped larvae around the edges, but it's pretty much a frame of capped brood. So I made sure the queen wasn't on here. I'm actually going to take these bees and I'm going to shake them off in front of the hive. Now, because this was a frame of brood, most of the bees on this frame were larvae. Most of the bees on this frame were nurse bees, and they usually integrate into a new hive really quickly and easily. So by shaking them off in the front, the nurse bees tend to go right into the weaker hive and integrate into that new hive with no problem. The older foragers that aren't going to integrate well into a hive, they'll just fly away back to the old hive. So then I'm just going to put this frame of brood right in the middle of this hive. Push the frames tightly back together. And on my strong hive over here that I took the brood from, this frame of foundation that we took out of the weaker hive, I'm just going to put it on the outside edge. So I'm going to push all the frames tightly together. I'm putting my frame of foundation on the outside edge, and I'm done. Simple as that.